I've been a wrestling fan since the evening of March 16th, 1998. It was on that night that I saw Sting descend from a helicopter and beat down the NWO with a baseball bat. At least, that was my memory of it. In all actuality, Sting didn't really use the bat very much. It was more often just something to menace and intimidate his adversaries. Regardless of my faulty memory, after that night, I was hooked. It was near the peak of the Monday Night Wars, and I was firmly on Team WCW. Look, here's proof. I have a picture of me with Evan Courageous. At the time, I found the product put out by the WWF to be kinda off-putting, and it would be a few more years before I would really warm up to them. But not long after that, the WCW was bought up by the WWF. The WWF would then become the WWE, and over the next several years, I would drift apart from wrestling. I watched SmackDown on UPN whenever I could, but I often didn't have access to cable TV in the early to mid-2000s, so I missed out on a lot. Although I do watch a bit of modern stuff, and I've gone back through and caught up on a lot of what I've missed thanks to the WWE Network, most of my love for wrestling is firmly rooted in that Monday Night Wars period. And it was during that time, around 1997 to the year 2000, when 4 of my favorite wrestling games of all time were released. I spent countless hours in each of these Nintendo 64 titles, and I know that plenty of you did too. These games have been kept alive through a very dedicated modding scene, but personally, I've had trouble installing some of these mods, and I honestly don't love playing N64 games on an Xbox controller, and I'm not so dedicated to them at this point in my life that I'm gonna go out and buy a PC-compatible N64 controller. So while I do appreciate the work that's being done for those N64 games, it's really just not the same for me, and I've tried a bunch of the WWE 2K games over the years, and I really didn't care for their simulation-style gameplay. I wanted that classic arcade style from my youth, mixed with modern graphics and controls. Fast forward to March 2022, and I have found myself spending an embarrassing amount of money on the NWO edition of WWE 2K22. Obviously, the nostalgia for some of that Monday Night Wars stuff is on full display here, but that was present in some of the previous 2K titles as well. What I was most concerned with when picking up this game was, is it fun to play? And my answer is a resounding yes. The game uses a very simple 3-button system of light attack, heavy attack, and grapple. You can also dodge, block, counter, taunt, and pick up weapons, and all of it will feel immediately familiar to anyone who enjoyed those classic wrestling games developed by AKI. The action does seem to move just a bit slower than those old games, but once I played through a few matches, I was totally in sync with the game. You get little button prompts when you have a window of opportunity to reverse a move, but there's also a secondary type of counter. When your opponent grabs you and gets you in a grapple, you can guess whether they're going to do a light or heavy attack. Press the corresponding button in time, and if you're correct, you will counter their move. Everyone that I've played as so far handles and moves just like you would expect them to, and you can play as a lot of different wrestlers. The roster is generally broken down by weight class, and while I have to admit that I don't really know who a lot of these people are, there are more than enough familiar faces out of the 163 wrestlers included in the game, or 168 if you opt for the pricier edition. It's also been announced that over the coming months, there will be more wrestlers available through DLC, including Machine Gun Kelly.
This fucking beard is weird.
I don't really watch WWE very often, but this game is really trying to make me care about Machine Gun Kelly for some reason.
This fucking beard is weird.
Anyway, let's say that those nearly 170 wrestlers that you have to choose from at the start isn't quite enough. That's where the creations come in. The Create a Wrestler mode in this game is crazy. While I had some fun trying to make Andrew here, I didn't even begin to scratch the surface of what you can accomplish in this mode, mostly because it's a little overwhelming. There are more parameters that you can customize than I have time to list in this video. And while I can definitely see the potential to create some of my favorite wrestlers who didn't make it into the game, my create-a-wrestler skills just really aren't all that great. However, players can go online and download creations that other players have uploaded. There's a basic upvote system that brings the more popular creations to the front page, and I can't believe the detail and accuracy that people have been able to achieve on some of these. There are wrestling superstars from past and present, celebrities, cartoon characters, and more. It's a lot of fun, and the creations don't stop at just wrestlers. Players can create their own belts, matches, shows, arenas, entrances, movesets. Basically, almost everything that makes up a match can be customized. The game includes all the standard modes and matches you would expect, like Extreme Rules, ladder matches, cage matches, Hell in a Cell, Royal Rumble, and so on. In addition to these exhibition matches, there's several other gameplay modes. The Showcase mode tells the story of Rey Mysterio Jr., and is basically a series of important matches from his career, interspersed with video from those matches, and narration by Mysterio himself. It's pretty cool to relive some of these iconic moments, while also hearing Rey Mysterio recount those experiences. The other sort of story-based mode is called My Rise, where you play a newcomer to the WWE, making your way up through the ranks from training to superstardom. There's also My GM, which is sort of a resource management game where you get to take on the role of a WWE booker, setting up matches and managing the whole operation. My Faction is a card game mode, and that's prone to microtransactions, and I don't really care for all that stuff, so I'm just gonna move on. But lastly is the Universe mode, which essentially goes through a series of different shows and matches simulating WWE programming, with the player being able to guide things like storylines, roster, and more. So there's a lot on offer here, but the majority of it does hinge on that core gameplay, which, like I said at the top of the video, is in the arcade style. And if for whatever reason that doesn't really jive with you, then I think this game would be a hard sell. And that's a little wrestling humor. But personally speaking, I found the basic combat to be very intuitive, and it's fun to attempt different counters and reversals. It's also fun to see all these different wrestlers captured in a game that looks this good. There's so much attention to detail, like subtle fog and film grain on the WCW Nitro arena, to match the look of those old Nitro broadcasts. I was pretty sure that I would never enjoy another WWE game again, but 20 years later, I'm having a pretty good time. Have you played 2K22? Do you know about any cool creator wrestlers that I should download? Hit me up in the comments and let's talk about wrestling. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe for new Hidden Machine videos all week long. See ya!